Welcome to the Benz Nightshow. This is now episode number 55 on the 28th of December 2020. So we only have 3 days left for the year 2020, the year that wasn't. It was a year that virtually disappeared right in front of our eyes. And it's also changed everything and made us have a glimpse of the future. And the future is we'll just communicate through communication, through virtual communications, through social media, Zoom, or virtual meetings. And this is a scenario already predicted in the 1960s by the great scientist and author, science fiction writer Isaac Asimov in his Foundation and Robot series. Okay, so episode number 55, mga kaigsunan. Let's proceed. So, patendan sa muli. Tonight we will be discussing what is the problem with the RT-PCR, the accuracy of the RT-PCR, and what is the problem with and what are the benefits of the cheap but less accurate rapid antibody test. So since we're running out of time, I will just discuss them with you directly. So in the meantime, on my background, I will just without discussing them, show you some figures. Okay. I did not discuss this. Okay, so while I'm discussing what's the problem with the accuracy of the RT-PCR and what are the benefits of the cheap, less accurate rapid antibody test, ito nag-discussion. So on my back, I will just show you some figures, but I don't have to discuss them. Okay, so background na siya. So while listening to me, you also some data in the background. All right, so I have discussed this idea before. Okay, I have discussed this idea before. I think sometime in July, before remember August. August you have CB at TV, but before that, still at ABS-CBN, I discussed this. Now, if you take a look. If you take a look at the if you analyze the discussions, you can easily contrast the direction of the discussion of the DOH, the IATF, and everybody else except me. Okay, so remember, I'm always contrarian. It's against conventional wisdom, but later on I'm proven right. For example, I already discussed since the beginning that we will have greater economic problems, more problems, and still we could not control the infections by locking down the transportation sector, and practically in so doing, as a consequence, when you lock down the transportation, you lock down the human activities, then you also lock down the economy. And I have been proven right, because the other countries which we discuss every night, the other countries that we discuss every night, okay, they actually, the other countries that we discuss every night, they didn't lock down the public transportation. So I'm proven right that look at the ballooning, the exponential growth, the explosion of our infections compared to the 5 other countries that we mentioned, that we discussed as early as April and May. And in fact, I already had the table, April and May, right? The comparison, the spreadsheet that I've been showing you every night. Okay. Now, all right. So, I've been proven right. Next, this is only with respect to COVID. Next, I've always maintained that, remember, I've always maintained that this is airborne, and nobody believed me. In fact, people were sort of making fun of me, ridiculing me, because I always maintain that the SARS-CoV-2 virus has to be airborne. That's my conclusion. And whenever I say that, I always maintain, and I always say to you, I always maintain the statement that the WHO doesn't think, that the coronavirus is airborne, but I maintain it's airborne. I've been saying that I'm against the WHO's conclusion since the beginning, February, April. Now, later on, maybe sometime in August, eventually, I was proven right, and WHO finally admitted it's airborne. So these are the things which I, maintain. My declaration, my belief, my analysis. Number 3, I have also been saying, I've also been saying that I have been saying that the other countries will have lesser contagion, will have lesser deaths compared to the Philippines. This was forward looking, despite the fact that they did not shut down their public transportation, did not shut down the restaurants. They shut down the karaoke bars, the mahjong bars, but the mahjong bars actually were later on open. In fact, in July, Hong Kong already opened their public swimming pools. Okay, so look at their deaths. Now, I've also maintained since July, I think, I've been saying since July that the Philippine government, or let's say Philippine government, is wrong in not conducting. Remember this. What didn't they conduct? Not conducting a random, stratified, random sampling of the population. And if you don't have the stratified random sampling, you don't have any mathematical basis for your policy making. Until now, they haven't done. Okay. And one of my other statements lately, it's also in July, the random sampling, I have been barking about that since February. Now, number 5, I also maintain that our interpretation of the rapid test is wrong. And I don't know why the DOH and the IATF and all the local government units in the country are misinterpreting the results of the rapid test. I have been discussing that, remember, for so many months now, 10 months. I always say that if you are positive for rapid test, you should be happy because you already have the anti-corona antibodies. The anti-corona bodies. These anti-corona bodies are developed inside your body by your own immune system. So when you're positive for it, when you're positive for the anti-coronavirus, what I'm saying is, they should not isolate you anymore. So what the local government, what the DOH, actually the IATF has been doing is, when you're positive for the antibody, you're isolated. That's wrong. Because if you're positive for the IgG, and I've explained this so many times, I have discussed the difference between the antibodies and the PCR test, rapid test and the PCR test, and the implications. Because you already have the convalescent plasma. That means to say your plasma is already convalescent. That means you have defeated the virus on your own. And that is why you have their IgG, long-term IgG antibodies. The IgM is short-term. I have discussed that already. So, these are one of the things nga akong emphasize that we got it wrong. Not we. You got it wrong. The IATF got it wrong because I got it right since the beginning. That's what I've been saying is that if you're positive for the rapid test, that means you have conquered this coronavirus already and you should be happy. What did the government do? Those who are positive for the rapid test, they isolate them. They do so many things as if that guy is infectious. No, he's not again infectious. He has already the antibody. Practically, if you go for the PCR test, this guy will be negative. That's why a lot of politicians were saying, "Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? I was positive for the antibody rapid test, and then the confirmatory test is the PCR test. I'm negative. Oh, there's something wrong." No. There is nothing wrong. What is wrong is how you interpreted the data. If you're positive for the anti-corona bodies, if you're positive for the anti-corona bodies, that means to say, you will come out negative in the PCR test. Negative in the PCR test. Because your anti-coronavirus, your SARS-CoV-2 virus, your coronavirus, is no longer infectious. Why? Because you already have the antibody. I've been saying that. Okay. Now, of course, what I've been saying also is, if you have a problem with coronavirus, come to me. I can help you. I can cure you. You don't believe me? Okay. Okay, if you don't believe me. But billionaires have been calling me to help me cure their, to help. In fact, right now, as I'm talking, I got a Viber from one of those billionaires in Cebu. And this billionaire is sending me, this is 1222, patient, ano ba yan? This is patient. This is a COVID patient, a famous personality in Cebu. I will not tell you because once I tell you, you would know exactly that person because that person is famous in Cebu. And I've been curing this guy. Okay, 1221. Okay, 1221. Okay. Slow. Then what happened? Then 16. Okay, right. So right now I'm looking at that. I'm curious why this billionaire is sending me this data. Oh, yeah. Wow, that's the result. Wow. I even surprised myself. It's about 300% increase in platelet. And look at the white blood cell counts, red blood cells, the hemoglobin count, the hematocrit, and the lymphocytes is now increased. That's okay. Lymphocytes also. Lymphocytes. Okay. Anyway, what I'm saying is, okay, so let me cure your COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 virus. Okay, so I've been saying these things. Now, what am I going to discuss tonight? Now, what I'm going to discuss tonight, I have already discussed before, but I'm repeating this for the benefit of those who are listening right now, and I want the LGU to listen. So please share our broadcast right now, because I'm going to discuss what's wrong with the PCR test. What's wrong with the accuracy of the PCR test? What's wrong with it? And what is right with the supposedly inaccurate rapid test? Can you imagine that? Right now, what I'm going to do, I have already discussed this. I'm just going to repeat the discussion because I want to remind what I have discussed before hasn't sunk in yet. Wala pa mo sink in sa mga kuan. So, sinibasahon ning atong mga messages diri. Okay, chatroom. Okay, sorry ka pa na ko basa. Si Cecil Vines na minaturon. Uy, si Ma'am Cheryl Barba Cortez. Good evening dia, Ma'am Cheryl. May Christmas, Happy New Year, Ma'am. Long time no, sir. Si Benji Strolioso. Uy, kumusta na, Benji? Sa pasakla pula po si tinaminong si Benji Mkaigsunan. Ito ni siyang officer, security officer sa ABS-CBN. Joel Sadaya na minaturon. Advance Happy New Year. Si Elgo watching from Cebu South. Si Brian Pasilan, doktor mas siguro ka, sir, no? Anak ni siya sa akong professor sa calculus sa una. Advanced calculus. Si Ma'am Rose Pasilan. GT, I think the rapid test will not specify what kind of virus you're infected of. It just shows there is an ongoing infection, IgM, already recovered, but cannot indicate which specific virus has hit you, unless it's confirmed by PCR test, which is more specific if it's really SARS-CoV-2 virus. Now okay, sir. Okay, yeah, good point, but there are specific rapid tests for the antibody for the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Because I've been reading some literature on that. This rapid, we're talking about the question of specificity, right? Specificity. Isura mo specificity. Specificity. Para sa yung specificity. One is sensitivity, right? The other is specificity. Now, correct? Good point. Is this cross? Itawag na? Cross reaction man siya. But, as far as I have read sa literature, these antibody tests are specific SARS-CoV-2 antibody test. So, it's the anti-corona tests. There might be other tests na really specific, but this one is, most of the antibody tests right now are specific. Again, there's that issue. There's that issue whether your antibody is the dengue antibody or is it the SARS-CoV-2 virus antibody. Specificity. So, for me, the specificity para sa yung pronounce. The specificity, for me, mo na siya quality karon sa mga rapid tests. But good point, sir, di ba, Dr. Sir Brian? Well, so nirira na minaw na to ron og si isa pa ni Sanso Gilbolingo, kini si Mr. Joe Black, doktor magini siya. Okay, ang ECLIA test, which I was tested off after naka-recover ko sa June. So, ang ELISA test, attorney, maka-specific siya test sa COVID. Now, I don't know kung sa rapid test gipagamit ninyo, but as far as I've been looking at some tests katang gipang kuan sa US, it's specific to COVID, to SARS-CoV-2 virus. The virus itself, SARS-CoV-2 virus. ICLIA o ELISA test, mao'y maka-specific test. So, I don't know, sir, whether the rapid test, etc. But most of these rapid tests actually detect the SARS-CoV-2 virus test. In fact, naanaroy rapid test nga PCR, ha? Naanay rapid test nga PCR. I think, I don't know kung i-approve na ba sa US. Rapid test nga PCR. I've been following some developments on that. I think i-approve. In fact, si Dr. Mena tweet, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. Rapid test nga. Nanay rapid test nga PCR. Napoy rapid test nga antibody. Okay, sige lang. Just, Now, for me, okay. Katong gipang test nato, nga gipang isolate, rapid test. Positive ka, isolate ka. Ano ga-select na sila? Because that result for that rapid test, supposedly, sa DOH o sa ATF, supposedly, those tests are specific to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. SARS-CoV-2 virus. Nga nagpang-isolate man to sila. Og na IgM lang to sila tungod sa dengue or tungod sa flu or etc. Isolate sila. Okay. Sige lang. Just for to get past the specificity. Atulan ni siyang ikuan. Let's just assume. Give me the benefit of the doubt that those rapid tests are specific to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Okay. Si Engineer Hill Escudero, kumusta na, sir? Dapat yung pa-context ganun, sir, bahin sa real estate board. Now, karon, nga rin ako. I'm repeating this discussion. Why am I repeating this discussion? It's because para na karon the Philippine COVID strategy is a headless chicken strategy. Kana bang manok putla nimo og liog, buhi gyapon, kapakapa, y direction. That's the headless chicken strategy. And I have been saying that all the time. Kay klaro. Kay nag-agad data sa whim and caprice of President Duterte, who is a lawyer and a politician, not a scientist. Okay, he doesn't know what is stratified random sampling. Okay, so now, ako ning ko ano na, let's go back. Rapid sampling. Ang problema, I'm going to summarize right now in a few sentences. What is the problem with the PCR test and what are the benefits of the rapid test? The problem with the PCR test is this. The PCR test is not effective as a tool for public health or COVID strategy. Not effective. It could be a tool, not effective. When we mention about effective, we're talking about the triple E. Economy, efficiency, effectiveness. Triple E. So when you analyze actually economics or need cost-benefit ratios or even auditing or BIR, triple E juga. Now, triple E. Effectiveness, economy, efficiency. Okay. Now, to summarize in one sentence, one or two sentences, the problem with the PCR test is that it will not give us economy, efficiency, effectiveness. As a tool, it's not the best tool for public health policy, for epidemiological. See? Siguro mo di klaro, no? Okay. This one. PCR test is good for individual health management for one person. Let's say Engineer Hill Escudero, or let's say GT Benz. When you want to manage the health of GT Benz, PCR test is useful. But if you want to formulate a public health policy or an anti-COVID strategy, paminaw mo ITF, paminaw mo DOH, paminaw mo LGU, i-share ko na ninyo, ba? I-share ninyo sa mga LGU friends na akong discussion ron. Paminaw mo. The PCR is not effective as a tool for health management, for public health, for epidemiological purposes. Why? Because it fails in the triple A: effectiveness, efficiency, economy. As a public tool, huh? So, by the way, I'm always emphasizing this, the effectiveness of the tool. I'm not saying it cannot be used. You know, I learned this when I went to AIM, sa business school. I did not learn this at the University of San Carlos. Because as an engineer, we are used to a yes or no, or a perfect calculation. Wrong solution or right solution. Because in mathematics, you cannot, your 1 cannot be a 2, your 2 cannot be 1, your squared cannot be a cube. It has to be exact. It has to be exact. And that is engineering. But one thing which I learned at the business school, at the AIM, and it has a deep impact on me, was this. We were trained, really trained. We did not have to calculate. We were trained to make policies, to formulate business policies, to formulate CEO policies, assuming the CEO of the company, business policy, corporate policy, based on imperfect information. Given the information you have, what is the best or the most effective tool? It's not the perfect tool, but the most effective tool. Economy, efficiency, effectiveness. Now, using this, as I have said already, I'm going to repeat, the PCR test for me is not the most effective tool for public health policy, for management of the COVID. It's good for the individual. When I go to the hospital, PCR test. For individual diagnosis, yes. Public health policy, no. Why? Again, economy, efficiency, effectiveness. Why? The PCR test is, and I have discussed this already. Remember, I have discussed this already. It is not the first time I discussed it. I have discussed it all the way back sa July pa, August. I had a full discussion, I think 1.5 hours of discussion. Okay. The PCR, the problem with the PCR is that it is too accurate, and that's a big problem. So, what GT Venture saying that a tool which is too accurate is problematic? Yes, you heard me right. It's problematic. Oo ka ko ano problematic. Karon, sige. Ano problematic na siya? Unya, why is it problematic? Okay. First, number one, it's very expensive. So therefore, you cannot use it as a mass distribution, mass, how do you call this, tool. Mayroon ng gamito na sa Singapore because Singapore only have what? 7 million? No. Pinagtawa ng Singapore. Kalimutan ko na. Kaya ang Taipei, ang Taiwan, mga 23 million. Ang Singapore, ang Hong Kong, 7 million. Singapore, I think, ba 8 million. Now, Singapore can afford mass testing using PCR. Philippines, no. We have 100 million. So, we cannot afford PCR. So, it's very expensive. And usually, you get tested only once. You get tested only once. Diba? Magpa-test ka karon, kung paano ka, you're now overconfident. You're now overconfident. Oh, I have no coronavirus. But, if you test on December 28, what's the probability that you will negative ka sa December 28? How about December 29? Or how about December 30? Or about December 31? You could be infected by an exposure on December 29 because you go to some party and you're exposed. Diba? So, sorry nga naman eh. Sorry. So, it's so expensive that you cannot repeat it every week. You can't repeat it. It's very expensive. Tag 12,000 ko na sa private hospital. Tag 3,000 siguro na sa Red Cross. It's very expensive. Diba? Very expensive. Kedua, remember, as a public policy tool, so efficiency, economy, effectiveness, it will fail. Expensive, and you cannot do it often. So there's no frequency. So how effective could it be if you do not have frequent testing as a person? So each person has to be tested every week for PCR. And it cannot be done. And now we are confident that we are tested December 28, we're negative, na di na ka mag-test in January 1. As if the test on December 28, as if it give you an immunity. No, it's just a test. You're not immune. And the other problem with the PCR test is that it is too accurate. What do you mean too accurate? It is too accurate. Although I have discussed this already, I'll try to summarize it. Okay. It is too accurate that it gives false positives. It's not 100%. It may be 97% accurate. But the problem is this. It is too accurate. And that too accurate result gives rise to false positives. What do you mean by false positive, GTB? That means to say the virus is not there? No. The virus is there. But it is too sensitive that it gives out a positive reading even if those viruses are just remnants. You know, the ORF, the etc. The viruses are just remnants. Okay. I would like to just summarize the RT process. Mura na siya og amplifier. Actually, it's an amplifier. So, everybody's familiar with the amplifier, but you increase the volume. If you increase the volume, can you hear the hum? Yes. Right now, there's a hum due to my computer, electrical hum. There's a hum due to my tapping. But if my microphone is too sensitive, remember, pag sugod nako, you can hear the water, and that water is due to my cooling system sa computer, and it was picked up by my very sensitive microphone, my condenser microphone. So in other words, for the consumer electronics fans who are listening right now, it's easy for me to make an analogy with a PCR test and the condenser microphone. Okay. That's why whenever I talk to somebody, I want to explain something, I would like to know his background. Kung mathematician ka, I will give you a mathematical approach to explanation. Kung lawyer ka, I will give you the non-mathematical approach, the lawyer approach. Kung MBA ka, I will give you the MBA approach. So, karon, now, consumer ka, ordinary listener, I'll give you the mass audience approach, which is amplifier. The PCR test is an amplifier. They take a segment of that RNA of the SARS-CoV-2 virus and amplify it. Amplify. Kapila nimo tuyokon ang imong volume, tuyo kas volume nga makadungog na ka sa noise sa ham. And that is what's happening with the PCR test. So, they call it the cycle times, CT, cycle time. Or the cycle values, CT values. Kapila mo tuyok og sa, I hope you're, please feedback to me by posting sa posting a message sa YouTube, sa Facebook, if you're getting what I mean. Kaya sa glibog sa ta. Okay. Okay. So now, that is why it's too positive. Ang CT, ang cycle count, i-amplify. So, ang kanang CT value, muna kapila nimo i-amplify, kapila nimo ituyok. O sa imo pang amplifier sa inyong balay, kapila mo tuyok ko ang volume dial, una madunggan nimo ang hum. Ang noise, electrical hum. Diba? Kusog yung volume, magdungog nimo ang noise, ang mga background noise, ang hum, na pick up sa imong microphone. So, right now, I'm using a condenser mic. It can easily pick up. Of course, I adjusted the microphone so that ubos ng signal, mga background signal, iyang i-reduce by 60 dB, for example, or by 10 dB decibels. Iyang i-reject, no. So, kung kausar ka mo tuyok sa imong volume, kadungog ka sa imong background noise sa ham, dili. Kaduha, dili. Katulo, kanus amang ka makaingon nga kusog na gyud ang background noise, ang electrical hum sa imong amplifier nang pick up sa microphone. Ikaw, ka 34. Ka 34 na nako, tuyo ka. And that is the big problem. Why? Because your microphone is so sensitive. Okay? And then it's amplifying it how many times? Your microphone has amplified it 34 times. Until you hear that background noise. And that's the same analogy. That's the same analogy. That's the analogy. The same idea sa RT-PCR test. The problem with the PCRs, this too sensitive. Remember, doon na sa test, ha? Specificity o ang sensitivity. It is too sensitive. Ha? It is too sensitive. Ang kuan, it is too sensitive ang PCR. Unsa may tabo na? Kanaging lang asymptomatic. Positive ka. Yes, you're positive. You're asymptomatic because the virus particles, the RNA, has been amplified 34 times. You're positive, but that amplification up to 34 times means they're so small, they're so tiny, they cannot do you any harm, and they are no longer infectious. Manigingon niya. Ang ham sa noise. Ayaw ra gud na og tanawag din mo tuyokon og ka 34. Og imo ra tuyokon 10 times, 20 times. Di ni mo dungog ang ham. So, question. If you have the viral particles, the virus, SARS-CoV-2 virus, as detected by the PCR, does that automatically mean that the particles detected by the PCR test are infectious? The answer is no. No. It's not infectious. So, you may be positive, but those viral particles are not infectious. Remember, kadungog mo itong mga May, June, July nga sa South Korea na nakitaan nga gitest og usab ang pasyente niya ning positive na po siya sa virus, and then they rejected it later on because it was just the remnants of the RNA of the virus. And that's exactly what's happening sa test na to. Our PCR test is so sensitive that you cycle up to 34 times and you are positive, but that is now what we call as a false positive, because at such values, at such CT value, kapila na tuyo ka, kapila na i-amplify. Again, matuloy pa ni Mr. Brian Pasilan. Kapila ni amplify. Kapila ni amplify. Manandong ka na. What? Nga nung pabuto naman ng 34 cycles. Nung 34 ko naman na. It's too sensitive, but the virus are no longer infectious. Okay. And that's a problem with the PCR because it's too sensitive. So, ang tanan nga nakadungog, ang tanan nga na-testingan na positive, bisag actually din na to siya infectious. So, asang cut-off level na? I think at 34 CT. That's why, kada result sa PCR test, makita na ko, tanaw na ko og CT value. Di man ikuan. Di man ihatag sa result sa Vicente Soto. Moingon raman dito nga, SARS-CoV-2 virus detected. Positive ka. No. I don't want just positive. I also want the quantitative. Pila CT value, ana? Remember, nag-discuss ko na diri niya, naki-chart ipang buhat ninyo, ana? Kaya pwede man ka og CT value at the end of the cycle, nga padong na mawa ang virus, hindi na siya infectious. Pwede kag CT value at the beginning. So, there's a problem with that. Now, I already mentioned to you, one professor sa Columbia University who's an expert on virology, nakakuha siya random sampling, i-test siya sa university, nakita siya sa random sampling, siya napilian, i-test siya, positive. And siya, what's the CT value? Iyong itanaw, 34. 34.5. 34.5. But I have no symptoms. I have not been exposed. I'm not going out. So, test ako sa because I think that's a false positive. And then 2 days later, nag-usab sila test. 2 days later, ha? Wa na detectable levels. Wa na detectable. So katong 34 that was already too sensitive. Na para grabe na tong volume, mo na nadunggan ang ham. Pag-usab niya, wa na gid siya. Okay, but that's already a waste of money. So effectiveness, efficiency, economy. So therefore, for a poor country like the Philippines, PCR might be good for your personal diagnosis when you're sick, but not a good tool. Again, that's not the best tool for epidemiological policy formulation, or in general public health policy or anti-COVID strategy formulation. Okay? Tud pa ni Mr. Frank Largo, ang bagong Roche antigen test kay taas kayong specificity ug sensitivity pero wala gi-publish kung tagpila. Dapat karit by market price o takay ba okay nababay na VAT din eh. Unya mo ginan siya sa tong import ay bayaran pa minamahal biya plitiron kay ang mga eroplano ron puno. Di ba mo nag-discuss sa bitas LBC ha nga ibarko pero nagbayad tag eroplano pero barko padala 1 week. Okay. So okay ba akong discussion? The problem with the PCR. Sige. Now, it depends. Daghang kay problem sa PCR. What's your solution? If you are the head of the IATF or ikaw may DOH head, kasi mong waton? Simple. I'll go for the rapid test. Rapid test, tag 200 pesos naman na. Ang cost. Ilang ibaligyan, 500. Gobyerno siguro 300. Kaya na na. Imukta naman ng billions of dollars. Kaya na to. But we have not done it. So, what am I going to do? This is what I've been saying all along. Since February. I will conduct stratified random sampling from each barangay, for example, Cebu City. Stratified random sampling, but I will not use the PCR. I will use the rapid test. Now, actually, ang rapid test, some rapid tests are as accurate as 90%. Katong uban nga 30% accurate. Extreme sa to. Di na po ito katuan. Maybe 70% accurate to 90% accurate ang rapid test. Ang rapid test sa Roche, kana sa Roche, abot may 99. Okay, si Sana Molina Naminaw, Ruli Soria, Frank Largo, Kimbro. Okay, Shirley, Kimbro Niner, Shirley Villalongha Chua, Lianix, si Luz Pardillo, Naminaw po, Marvin the Artist, of course si Mr. Brian Pasilan, si Felipe Minyosa, Naminaw po. Okay, so muna. Okay, kung sa buhaton ako i-simplify. Akong buhaton. Simple na niya ako. This is for public health management policy. Not to manage a specific patient. I'm talking about public health policy. What is important here is public health policy. So, now, akong buhaton. Ako lang i-summarize. I'm the head of the IATF or I'm head of the DOH. Ako yung health secretary. That's what I'm going to do. And the LGU also. Anong panggat sa IATF LGU? Mayor Labilla, Mayor Ahong. Ngari naman ako. Kung namoy COVID, specific patient, gusto mo masave na, ngari mo na ako. O gusto mong grabe ako tanan. O gusto mong mukuan sa patient ninyo, kung gusto mong kung gusto mong gusto mo formulation sa inyong COVID policy as a city, as a province, or as a country, nga naman ako, paminaw mo. I'm giving you the solution already. I've thought about this since February pa. February, March, April. Okay. Number 1. Simple, ha? Step 1. Uy, si Rene Bachansila o giyang nephew nga si Daryl, naminaw na to ron. Salamat kayo. Daryl, no? Si Rene Bachansila. Okay. Step 1. Throughout the country, I will instruct all the LGUs to conduct statistically random, dili arbitrary, random, lain ng arbitrary, lain ng random testing, selected randomly. Now, how to conduct a random sampling, it's not the time for now. Ako na discuss long time ago, kami pang Leon, gidiscuss na ako sa DYEB pa mi. Sa iyang program. Certified random sampling. For each LGU. For example, per barangay. Kada barangay, magbuhat mo random sampling. How to design that sampling? Simple ka na. Ask a mathematician, a statistician. Kada university na. Sa na siya. I mean, you only need one statistician for the entire country. Kunya ang instructions, YouTube na nimo sa how to conduct it. Basta, certified random sampling. Kedua, I will not use the PCR. Why? I have already told you a few minutes ago the problem with the PCR. I will use that cheap, supposedly inaccurate, cheap, but can be frequently administered, okay, random sampling. Rapid test. Antibody is specific to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Specific siya. Si Princess Frank Ingalls na minaw na ron. O si Malcolm Llanos na minaw to from Rancho Cucamonga sa California. California na minaw to. You share. I-share niyo atong post na to na atong streaming. Okay. Tagsara na magkakuha expert on epidemiology. Dari. Joke naman naman pag-expert pero paminawan niya. Remember, a few minutes ago, I just received a Viber message from a billionaire here in Cebu. Billionaire iyang company, billion peso company. Text na ko, kay iyang COVID patient, ang results, iyang ipadaan ko ang laboratory results. Kung kanimang tawa na, tag-iya, CEO of multi-billion company, nga rin ako magpatabang sa ilang COVID patient. Not only once, but maybe already 20 times. 20 different patients. Paminaw mo na ko kung naminaw ng mga bilyonaryo nga mubayad na ako sa akong kahago lang. We're earning a lot of money for that. Pero, akong labor liberan niya na. So, nga rin sa patabang na ko, dili sa doktor na patabang, dili sa it's not a joke anymore. Okay, may lang kausa. Kadagan man. So, di na. Anyway, sige. Now, rapid test, random sampling rapid test. Nganong ako nang i-discuss tonight? Because of one thing. As of today, I've been scanning the COVID policy and activities of the IATF. We have no direction. No comprehensive, no strategic direction. We have lost. Nag-ubay-ubay na lang ta. We're following the headless chicken strategy. Nagkapakapara ta. Ano lang, pataka na lang. Kuan dire, checkpoint dire, queue pass dire, quarantine pass dire, wala, pataka na lang ta. Di sa kamo open na, kuan, ya, pero kami, mag-vaccine na may, kamo, di lang sa, isang pa-approve sa FDA, yung vaksina. So, akong sabot, headless chicken strategy. Nga naman, nakadungog pa mo massive testing, Like in Cebu City or Mandawi City or Consolacion or Lapu-Lapu or Talisay? Wala ko no. Wala ko kadungog. That means to say, we are no longer addressing the formulation part of public health management. And you cannot formulate a public health policy or a COVID strategy if you have no data. And that data should be reliable data, and therefore it should be mathematically reliable. It should be a simple random sampling. Simple random sampling. Nalay guidelines na. So, rapid test. Nga naman ang rapid test may mga gamiton dito events. Nga, kung sa manila rapid test, ano, I have mentioned to you already that the rapid test is not a test for the presence or the presence of infections today or the current infection of the patient. So, rapid test is not good to manage the personal health of the individual. Okay? Now, but what does the rapid test do? It will give you an indication if the person has already been infected and now has developed his own or her own antibodies, anti-corona bodies, as if that person has been immunized by a vaccine. Actually, kung na-positive ka sa rapid test, mura ka gi-vaccinate. So, kung tanong ko rin mo karon, ikaw, listening to me right now, watching to me right now, have you been infected with the COVID? The SARS-CoV-2 virus? Yes or no? You don't know. Why? Magpa-rapid test. Magpa-rapid test ka. Kung magpa-rapid test ka, may bawa ni mo kung na-infected na ka, na naki-antibody. So, safe na ka. Now, over the weekend, nag-discuss mo ko, I met one of my consulting clients. Imbitar ko niya lunch. So, started out mga, the usual, how are you? Then, eventually, nagkuhan me. I said, you know what you should do with your company? You should conduct a random sampling sa imong company. Random sampling. Using the rapid test. It's not useful to treat your patient, but it will be useful for you as owner of the company to know na infected na ba di ay mo. Pila ka na infected sa inyong company? Kinsa na infected sa inyong company? Already infected. Huma na. Naayo na. Positive naman sa antibody test. Anti-corona test. I mean, specific city na dapat anti-corona iyang. Naigamay nga mga cross-reaction, pero kung mo ko na siya, it's all about how strong the data is. Ayaw pag-PCR test man na. Huwag ngato ka sa Red Cross o sa Bayani Center o sa kuha na nga 200 pesos, 300 pesos lang COVID ang rapid test. Do it. Especially, nga naka-mention siya nga na siya mga empleyado sa una nga nawa na sense of smell and taste. Pero, of course, naka-recover na yun. Kaya ako nag-inom sa Humanity EVX. Na-cure din sila. Cured by Humanity EVX. So, sila problema. Pero nga kung ganyan, katunga makainom nimo sa ilang balay, tingalig na COVID na sila last month. Walang sulti nimo. So, i-random test. Oh, if your employee is, pilam na imo employee, say 100, for example, 100 employees. 100 employees times 200 test. Assuming 200 ang test. 20,000 pesos ra. Aba? Hindi. Ang napo, 200 lagi. Ang napo, 200. Ang napo, 2,000. Ang 100, 20,000 pesos, you spend that 20,000. You spend that 20,000. Si Yamato Domino na to, good evening. Si Malcolm Gerard Llanos, okay. Rene Bachanchila, Francis Ingalls, okay. Do you get my point? Ang owner kas company ron, ang imo empleyado na pura para rapid test mong tanan. Pero may bawa na to, o kinsa tong nanay antibodies. Kung antibodies na siya, safe na to. Ang katong negative sa antibody, mo to yung problema, mo to yung bantayan. Kaya mo to makatakot ninyo. Makadasya kung ano na. So, o dagan mo company, o dagan mo company din, dagan mo empleyado, random test. Pero at least, naka-idea. Nakasuda ba din sa company o wala? Kuha na siya, retroactive na siya. That means past infection man. But you really don't need current or past infection for purposes of the entire country or entire Cebu City. Paminaw, Councilor Garganera. Kung imo ng barangay, imo na siyang i-random test, makibaw na kagpila di ay percentage-wise kay random test. That means, I'm talking about statistically, mathematically, you need a consultant for that, mathematics or simple again. You just create one guideline from the DOH or ITF how to conduct a random sampling in your barangay. Simple ra. Only ako buhat na. Okay, ako na putanan pa ako pa mo buat strategy ko pa mo calculate sa random sampling, pero I had statistics and I took up masters in economics. Wa mo man MA in economics, ay ako naman ng MBA. MA economics, nagkuhan ng quantitative analysis, appeal na kanang random sampling. Ay economics na to, naman quantitative econ. Now, so that's why I know how these things are supposed to be done. Pero ako na itanan. Come on, son. But you can only have that guidelines once. Kusara. The DOH should have that. Kung naminaw itong DOH regional director niya, mag-zoom meeting mo, 15 mo katao, i-suggest na niya sa inyong health secretary. Diba? Pilar mo mag-meeting DOH, regional director, meeting, mag-random sampling ta per barangay. So, kung nga ning emphasis ko na karon, because I no longer hear, wano ko kadungog. There's no more sound of massive testing all over the country. Wano ko kadungog. Wana. Murag ato nagkuha ng tag-isay sakit o na. Report. Infected today. Na po. There is no. Okay? There is no. Kami na there is no more testing policy that I've heard. If you have no testing policy, how can you formulate your anti-COVID policy? And that's the advantage of the rapid test because it's very cheap. Kada 100, imong gasto 20,000 pesos. Binilyon maguna ato na gasto na nya kana PCR. Sayop na mag-PCR test kasi mga barangay, ayaw. PCR test ka kung nanay mga symptoms. Di ba kumingon ka completely safe. What I'm saying ba is effectiveness of the tool. Kung imong barangay tinako, imong i-random testing na kay population of 10,000, magbuhat kag sample, pila ka sample. So statistically, din makiba na kag pila percentage sa infection na nahitabo na. So that's why I encourage my client, ang imong 100 employees, random test, i-complete na barato ra na. Sa imong family. Especially nga, one of his relatives, wa mo po yung silang family, na akong natabangan sometime in June, akong na-cure, one is sense of smell, sense of taste. COVID gito. So probably my client natakdan ito. Kasi yung client mainom sa Humanity EVX, GD6. So nakakuan sila. Wa sila magrabahe ang family. Mainom sila tanan. Nam sila stock kanunay. Di ba? Now, I'm not saying 100% testing for the barangay. It's just random sample testing. Kung pila ka percent na It doesn't have to be percent. You only need, kabantay mo na mga Pulse Asia, kung interview na sila og 1,000 to represent the 100 million Filipinos, kabantay mo, 1,000 interview na. Dako na ng 2,000. And that survey supposedly represents 100 million Filipinos. Actually, with a 5% confidence level, ako na sa rin na-discuss ninyo, you only need 97. 95% confidence level and margin of error 5%. You only need 97 people. So, kung boto na naon, sa Barangay Tinado, 97 people, but random sampling. You only need to select 97 people. Run of 100. 100 people sa Barangay Tinado. Sampling. 100 na. And that's 200 pesos times 100, 20,000 pesos only. And then, naka-statistical result. Can you imagine 20,000 na gasto? Kaya 20,000, inyo nang ipalit og Jollibee. Ano ba inyong mga Jollibee din na nga pagkaonis yung mga ipang side din ha? So, that's already mass testing. It's not 100% testing. Remember, I'm talking about statistics. So, if you're not familiar with the statistics, sige lang, just take my word for it. You only need 97 as a sample for your barangay. 97 per barangay. Kung gusto kayo, mo mong 200, okay lang. Dili 100, 200, okay. Or maybe 300. Okay, you get 300 statistical sample, so dili arbitrary ha. Arbitrary is not the same as random. Dili arbitrary. Di kayo, ikaw. Dili. Random sampling. Sige lang, unya, gidiscuss na ako how to conduct random sampling, but it's not the point now. Let the statistician do it. Do it. In fact, let the city hall do it. You only need one statistician to give you the guideline on how to conduct. So, kada barangay gamito na. Nya kana i-replicate, wala, upload ani mo, everybody can use it. Now, kiniron, mag-random sampling na ka sa Barangay Tinago, you need 100 people only. Inuntang 300 people. Na kay 10,000 sa Barangay Tinago, 10,000 residents. Ang imong kinahanglan 100 lang. Or, sige, 300. At 200 pesos each. Test. Then, sa metabo, you only spend 60,000. Councilor Garganera, you only need 60,000 pesos. To have 300, that's more than enough. 100 lang. Kung gimong example, kay ikaw magkay advisor on kuan or task force aning COVID sa Cebu City. 60,000 pesos, 300 people. Na kay statistical sample in the entire Philippines, ikaw rin na. Entire Philippines. You will be the model. And then, wala, pilay percentage. Makuha na ito pilay percentage sa imong infection. Past infection. Uy, natakda naman. Natakda naman ta. Ang atong infection rate diri sa barangay tingnan is already 2% infection rate. Or 50% infection rate. 50% infection rate. Exactly. Well, you can get that out only of 100 samples or 300 samples. 60,000 pesos. Di na makaya. Sure? Siya araw 60,000 di kakakuha na. Massive testing doesn't mean, okay, that you test everybody. You just need 100 people randomly selected. Test. Very cheap. 200 pesos per test. But statistical na ka. So, nakasud na di ay. Ang atong conclusion, nakasud na di ay. So, since nakasud na di, kung ang atong infection rate sa atong barangay is already 17%. Nakasud na, so magbantay mo, magbantay mo. Kaya kining, kuha nang nangatakod na tani. And then, 1 month later, sa imong barangay, pwede ka mag-test na pag-usap. Different people, nasad, 300 people, 60,000 pesos, 1 month later, naanasad, tanaw na to ikuan og pilay rin, 17% bagyapon or O sa 20% na. So, ang nga na ba, na naka-range sa infection rate. Every month you can do that. For your barangay. 60,000 naman. Gipamalit naman ninyo Jollibee sa inyong mga volunteers. Pakanon inyong volunteers, di ba? Jollibee inyong 60,000. Sa inyong mga volunteers. Di ba? This is my point. It's very cheap. Ngayon sila, kuhaan man na, GTB, hindi man effective. No. Ang accuracy sa rapid test is actually mga 70 to 90%. That's good enough. That's good enough for policy formulation because we are not talking about person-to-person diagnosis. Di ba mag-diagnosis? Di ba? Random sampling, dili na siya. Massive testing doesn't mean everybody will be tested. No. Random sampling. 100 people per barangay. Kung gusto ka, himuan mo 300 people per barangay. Para na kayo murag dako-dako nga confidence interval. Siguro may mo 96% instead of 95% mo confidence interval. Kasabot mo. Na, do you get my point? I mean, atong listeners? Nganon ko na, kay ngano, ganina. Dito ko o clinic. Ang akong gisundan, musudod ako, ang gisundan ako sa teller sa clinic, na positive dahil siya sa IgG. Gikuyawan ang teller. Gipagawas siya. Ako, gipagawas ako kapil. Pero, wa pa mong ko kasud, mura ba man ko napuspultahan ba? Sir, tanawa diag na nabay kuan. Bakante. Kuan, ako sa gawas. Gipagawas ato siya. Nanong gawas man to? Dalira. Inaon sa tambayhana. Gipa-fill up sa form, wa man mo declare dito nga nani si symptoms. Actually, ang form na duwi na within the last 1 month na ka-feel ba ka ani? Ano man na? Wa siya mo declare. Pero wa na siya symptoms today. Why? Positive naman siya sa rapid test. Rapid test siya sa public hospital, private hospital. Positive siya. Ako kumadlo, kaya positive naman siya. Wala to siya. Na to yung antibody, wala to yung dengue. Dengue, wala to siya. Wala, akong ginansa ng guard. Actually, guard, di ka problema ito. Di, sir, kung magod, kuyawa man ta. So, Lysol, wata sa sir, nakasol. Anyway, so I waited mga 10 minutes to get inside. Pero, I was just picking up some document anyway. So, akong point is this. This woman is rapid test positive. But the clinic didn't know how to handle this woman. Ilang gipagawas na yun. Actually, di na supposedly. Positive daw magugagod. Anong antibodies? Ang giyak po kunong kauban nga lain sa opisina, lain, wadi na. Positive sa siya. So, kamo, kung tagiya kang kitering ron, nakay na po ka employee, iparapid test na siya. Rapid test na siya. But at least makibakag na positive na ba din? Wa pa. Katong wa pa ang positive, ito yung problema. Matakdan mo to. Katong natakdan na, at least kibaw ka, natakdan na di ay. Dili na siya vaccination. It is for the purpose of data gathering as basis for formulation of anti-COVID strategy. So, nagtanaw, anong lesson? Barangay Lahog, barangay Sapatira, manala ba? But you cannot determine that if you don't have a random statistical sample. Now, in general, that's it. And I'm not saying the PCR is not good, but it is too expensive. Wala kay AAA, effectiveness, economy, efficiency, as a tool for mass testing. And mass testing doesn't mean everybody is tested. You just need a sample. A sample set to represent the population of your barangay. Barangay to barangay. So, Mayor Ahong Chan, gamitan na, sir. Hinoon. Okay. Okay na tana. Okay. So, nga rin na sa task, word GT bench strategy. Word strategy. Nga rin ta, word GT bench strategy. So, forget na, sakto na tong akong suggestion, and that was my serious professional suggestion to the IATF. And all day, naminaw na to ron. Naminaw na sa Councilor, diso na to. Good? Councilor, you just replay this episode, Councilor. Ipapaminaw ni, ang link ani, ipapaminaw sa imong kaubang Councilor. Or ikaw na mo buhat o resolusyon na Councilor. Disan. Buhat o resolusyon na. Nga, magkundagtag, random sampling, statistical random sampling. Number 2, using rapid test. Period. That's it. Ora. And, okay. So, rin nata sa word jet events strategy sa COVID. Okay? So, word jet events anti-conventional wisdom against conventional wisdom. Nga rin nata. Paminaw yun mo kay kung si jet events na gani matag og word idea, ibaw yun mo 20 years later, ma-proven right na. Yan na pagkotog 20 years ay pa. Ang bitang suggestion Supreme Court, ipangdawat naman. Karon na bagong news last week. Oy, ako man suggestion 3 years ago. Anyway, sige, narita. Word jet events strategy, COVID strategy. Simple again. For me, okay. The problem with the world COVID strategy is this. The problem, is this. Number 1, everybody is thinking that the solution to the COVID is to invent a vaccine and vaccinate everybody. Or at least vaccinate 70% to achieve herd immunity. And that is the strategy right now. The world COVID strategy. Strategy held by all countries. Vaccinate. And that's problematic. That is wrong. Why? Very expensive vaccines. No vaccines yet. No test for vaccine. No long-term test sa vaccine. No long-term studies sa side effects sa vaccine. And the vaccine is only, 90% effective. Kunya, ang katong 5% mga mata ito. So it's also very expensive. Billions and billions and billions, probably trillions. Kunya, ang problema sa vaccine is ang atong economy down lang yapon. And that's a problem. Right? So, vaccine is very expensive, very difficult in terms of logistics. Can you be in the Pfizer? No, in the Philippines, we cannot store that. Asa maka-storage na negative pila na, ka-Celsius. Negative 30 Celsius, asa magana. Atong refrigerator, kuhaan naman na. Negative 4, negative 1 Celsius. Now, anyway, and mahal ang vaccine worldwide, daghang tao. So, that vaccine approach is wrong from my own viewpoint. Remember, this is against convention. So, sa may solusyon ako, simple. Mahal ang vaccine, mahal ang manufacture sa vaccine, hadlok ang tanan, etc. Simple. Okay na. Para na ko, simple na. This is the cheapest and the most effective, most efficient. Unsa naman? Don't vaccinate. So, makigasto. Kunya, matakdan jet events, call me. Yan naman. Because I have invented the humanity VX which can cure COVID. Cure, quote-unquote cure. Di ko doktor, di ko WHO. It can cure COVID. E nagka-cure ni mo sa COVID. Mura yung gasto. Mura yung gasto. We will only address those nga nasakit. Mura. COVID ka, PCR test, COVID, o nanakay symptoms. Bisag wa pa ka mag-PCR test, nanakay symptoms, inom. Period, cure ka. Mura na gastohon. Mura na, worldwide. Ang katurang nasakit, mo'y pa, imnon. Human. You don't have to spend so much time for vaccination, logistics, bayad, Federal Express na UPS, di ba? Import, simple. Ang masakit, paimno sa humanity. Period. Cure. So, the cure is cheaper than the prevention. Kana ingon, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure? No! cure is better than prevention. Maglisod magag-prevent. Ala, trabaho mo daw, masakit mo, tawag ka GT-Benz, human. Ano ikibuhat sa kong kliyente? Kung pila may imong nakuhan na, sir, ang katong nangakuhan katong asawa sa akong empleyado, nakuhan man to, na COVID man to, painom naman to sa humanity, na-cure to siya. So, I'm sure ang bana, akong empleyado, nakuhan to, na-COVID to, pero kainom na siya, cure na to. O nga akong assistant din, department head din, ana. So, pulos, gipainom na sa, wala siya problema. Wala yung mga hospital ni sila. Inom na, pagkaugma, inig-inom na, within 2 hours, ang imong sense of smell, balik naman. Ano yung humanity effects? Di mo mutuwa na, ama. Gusto mo mong tanaw sa text diri sa Viber, diri sa bilyonaryo ng text na ko, half an hour or 1 hour ago. Na dire, wala ko reply. That's my strategy. Hala, pasakit mo diha, padadaan ta mong tambal, simple, uman. Period. So, ang gastuhon ninyo nga mag-stock mo sa humanity effect sa US, og masakit, inom. Dili ngingon injection ng tanan. Kamahala na injection ng tanan. 7 billion people in the world, injection ng tanan. Efektibo na yung oh, nga ni, be. Ani? Pila man kabok, kanang listeners sa duri, pila kabok listeners sa akong pasyente na. Diba? Usa ka pamilya to, ma'am? 9 in the family? Exactly. So, the word GT-Benz, but, you know, weird, but actually, hindi lang mumutuan but this is the best solution. Ay naman ang vaccinate. Masakit, inom, cure, human. That's cheaper. Ang entire vaccination, problema ka. Diba? Anyway, kasakit mo, ma-immune naman sa ka, pero inom ka, para di ka matay. Ang imong symptoms, hindi ko mabalik ka sa trabaho mo. Sige. Kay ang COVID virus with the humanity effects, ma-disabled siya. At the same time, muluwi pa yung cholesterol, saka pa yung platelet, saka pa yung lymphocytes. Diba? Ano siya? Importante yan. Lower yung cholesterol, lower yung uric acid, creatinine, saka yung calcium, potassium, magnesium, lower yung GPT, lower yung triglycerides, lower yung total cholesterol, lower yung high density cholesterol, LDL, HDL. Basta, in addition to, in addition to curing your COVID. Dagkan kaya, sa mong hubak, pag imong kuhan. Anyway, sige lang. Weird na siya makaigsunan, but think about it. Hindi kasakit ninyo, asa mo mo doon. Kaya katong 5 or 6 nga wa mo doon na ko, pero wa mo inom, September, October. Ang katong 2 nga may inom, the same regime namin, watcha. Nasip sila 2. Yan ang inom sa humanity. Okay, so remember, humanity is not prevention. Hindi siya vaccine. Hindi siya immunization. It's a cure. So sakit mo, inom. Pero naman to'y akong quote-unquote patient, di ba ako doktor? Kaya pa patient. Nagsimusik inuman So, pag sa virus, natagnan siya sa virus, ang COVID, wa maka-epekto ang COVID. Kaya simusik inom. Pero itong ginom, para siya maintenance, kaya lower yung cholesterol, may yung gusto, yung arthritis ba? Mawa yung arthritis. So, ginahan mo siya sa first day, the second day, third day, during that time na ginom siya for 10 days, 10 days naman siya ginom. During that time of 10 days, na-COVID ang iyang assistant. Yung secretary, nga mo tigunit siya yung cellphone, tigunit siya yung kwarta, tigunit siya yung documents. Ano mo siya matakdi? Nga, dool mo sila. Siya matakdi, kaya nagsing siya inom, na timing nga nag-inom siya, para to siya maintenance, makalure siya yung cholesterol. O sa iyang SGPT, karon regular customer na ang maong abogado pa. Regular customer na ko. Anyway, Thank you and good night. Sample na ako ha. Thank you, good night. Kini si J. Benz sa episode number 55 naman din, no? Special episode niya. Episode 55 sa itong episode 55 sa The Benz Nightshow. Episode number 55, December 28, 2020, 2 or 3 days before New Year. And again, share this episode sa mga LGU para kakuha sa idea on how to formulate your COVID policy. Kaya wa naman ta. Wa na tayo COVID policy. Kaya wa naman tayo testing. What the information? Nagsiritaghuwat anang infection cases. That's wrong. Sayop gina siya. You cannot use the number of infections as your basis for formulation. Ang imong kuno mo buhat yung epidemiological study ang katong i-describe tonight. I-replay niya akong discussion. Thank you and good night. Kini si Benz sa The Benz Nightshow, episode number 55, December 28, 2020. See you.